Welcome to the deep dive. Today, learner, we're jumping into a handbook you shared, The Mystery Method, How to Put Beautiful Women Under Your Spell.
Right. We've got the text, and, well, our mission is basically to unpack its core ideas on attraction, social dynamics. See what it's all about.
It seems to offer a very, systematic approach, almost step by step.
It does, and it grounds it all in some, let's say, fundamental ideas about human drives, starting with the purpose.
Okay, yeah. The book kicks off saying our main goal is survival, and secondary to that is replication, passing on genes.
When it paints this picture of humans as sort of biological machines, driven by emotions designed for, like, an ancient social world. Very different from now.
Which is a fascinating setup. How does it apply that to, well, dating?
It introduces something called the Venusian Arts, pitches it as the art of love, a discipline for starting relationships.
Kind of like martial arts being the art of war.
Exactly that analogy. Both involve dynamic social stuff, interaction, even ranks of skill.
Okay. And there's this concept, dynamic social homeostasis. Sounds complex.
It's basically the balance, right, between protecting yourself and aligning with others. Crucial for both survival and getting along, basically.
And this ties into attraction.
Yeah, the idea is we're naturally drawn to people who seem to have high survival and replication value. Think health, smarts, social connections, that kind of thing.
Right, like we subconsciously assess that value.
The book argues yes. And we form alignments, like social groups, tribes, whatever, to boost our own chances.
Then it moves into pair bonding.
Defined as that emotional connection before kids, continuing through raising them. It frames it as a sort of compromise between male and female strategies.
Highlighting the different risks involved, especially for women.
Definitely, which leads naturally into rejection.
Rejection and approach anxiety, even if logically it's no big deal today.
The book says our brains react like it's a huge tribal threat, right?
Yeah.
Like being ostracized back then could seriously lower your mating chances.
So the advice is to just embrace vulnerability, lean into the fear.
Pretty much. To overcome that ancient wiring, it also touches on Maslow's hierarchy.
Needs, physiological, safety, love, esteem.
Linking, fulfilling those needs to happiness and those core purposes, survival, replication.
And it drills down into the three vital areas: health, wealth, and love.
Stressing how interconnected they are. Neglect one and the others suffer. Makes sense.
So moving into the social dynamics bit, social status and behavioral circuitry.
Yeah, this part suggests our emotions are like circuits judging value, driving behavior.
Yeah.
It even mentions seemingly contradictory desires in women.
Like wanting an alpha type but then trying to change him.
That kind of thing. Understanding these emotional drivers is presented as key.
Which brings us to women select for value. What kind of value are we talking about?
Well, the book lists traits like looks, obviously, but also health, hygiene, fashion, humor, being comfortable, non-needy.
So looks matter, but it's not the only thing.
Definitely not. Having a life, being unaffected by stuff, it's a package deal. It asks the reader, the learner, to think about how developing these might change perceptions.
Then there's identity and image, needing a strong identity.
And making sure how you present yourself, your image, matches that identity. Congruence, basically. Passion and purpose are seen as attractive.
And peacocking, the flashy clothes idea.
Right. Using attention-getting items to signal you're comfortable with social pressure, with being noticed.
Okay, this feels like a core assertion. Women as creatures of sentiment.
Meaning driven more by emotion than pure logic. So the approach should appeal to feelings, not just rational arguments.
Which ties into social awareness. Status and reputation matter, especially for women.
That's the claim. It introduces the anti-slut defense, or ASD.
Right. A mechanism explaining certain behaviors, needing plausible deniability.
Exactly. It suggests understanding that helps navigate interactions, like why persistence might work sometimes, but being pushy backfires.
And intuition over analysis. Women relying more on gut feelings.
Leading back to congruence. If something feels off about someone, even if logically okay, intuition flags it. Hence, congruence tests.
Unconscious tests to check safety and security.
Yeah, and how you react determines if attraction goes up or down. Appeasing apparently doesn't work.
What about investment?
Simple idea. The more someone invests time, emotion, effort, whatever, the more they want to return. They become more invested in the outcome.
The book also notes women tend to avoid discomfort and confrontation.
So keeping things positive, not overreacting to, say, flaking, is advised, and focusing on fun and stimulation once safety is felt.
Being playful, challenging, unpredictable.
Seen as attractive, yeah. Then there's a section bluntly titled, Women Are Dangerous Creatures.
Okay. Meaning what exactly?
Basically acknowledging people are human, capable of manipulation, advising not to take things too personally. It also mentions the male tendency to rate women on looks.
The 1-10 scale, and that the method is geared towards attracting, quote, tens.
And it uses cat theory, like dangling a feather toy for a cat, keeping interest by being just out of reach.
Finally, the I have a boyfriend line.
The book interprets that often not as a literal statement, but as a sign the guy might be showing too much interest too soon, making her uncomfortable.
Wow, okay. That's a lot to unpack.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So summing up, this deep dive shows a very structured, almost scientific feeling approach based heavily on evolutionary psychology ideas.
Right, emphasizing emotional connection, understanding behavior patterns, and presenting yourself as having, well, high value.
A surprising detail that jumped out.
The book's calculation that the average person lives for just 28,251 days puts things in perspective, doesn't it?
It really does, a stark reminder about time. So, agree with it or not, the method offers a unique perspective on interaction.
Its relevance, perhaps, is just understanding a framework for social dynamics, even if you don't buy into all of it.
Which leads us to a final thought for you, learner. Given the book's emphasis on our possibly outdated emotional wiring in today's world,
How much is our modern relationship behavior driven by those ancient instincts? Instincts from a totally different environment.
and, well, what are the implications of that potential mismatch today? Something to think about.